Good starting of my day, or as some folk like to say, grand rising, since morning is for the dead, right? Morning. Um, Today, I'm gonna read. I was chit chatting with a good buddy of mine, and and he sent me over something I've read, a bunch of times, and I'm sure a lot of you have as well. And if you haven't, uh, you should read it. Mateo 7, Mateo 7:15, Matthew 7:15, and the title of that section starts with there's several titles throughout that the rest of that chapter, uh, but the title of that verse starts with of that point in the chapter starts with, "You will know them by their fruits." So that's what we're gonna check out today. So I've already asked the Father. I've asked the Father. I always ask the Father to intervene. I never wanted to be my flesh. Uh, the last thing I want to do in this world is manipulate the word of the Father uh, in my own interpretation uh, for ill-gotten gains, for greedy gains and the benefits of the kingdoms of the beasts. I never want to manipulate the word ever. I want to get true revelation. That's my only desire. That was my prayer, actually. That was my prayer in the beginning when I accepted the Lord as my Messiah. My prayer was, I want to know. But, you got to be careful what you ask the Father, they say. But I always ask the Father, I want to know what you know. I want to know. Silly me. I want to have your wisdom. I want to have your knowledge. I want to have your understanding. That was my prayer. And I had no idea what I was getting myself into. But then again, he knew me before he formed me in the womb, and he knew that I would ask these things. Because for such purpose he created me. And I've also came to that realization. So here I am reading Matthew, King James Version, by the way, because that's the first Bible I ever bought. This is the first Bible I ever bought. And so Matthew 7:15, you will know them by their fruits. In red letters, beware of false prophets who come to you in sheep's clothing, but inwardly, they are ravenous wolves. You will know them by their fruits. Do men gather grapes from thorn bushes, or figs from thistles? Even so, every good tree bears good fruit. Every tree that does not bear good fruit is cut down and thrown into the fire. Therefore, by their fruits you will know them. It's a funny thing, fruits. A lot of people A lot of people confuse what, because fruits here, by the words, by the mouth of the Messiah, fruits here mean good fruits, right? It means fruits that glorify. What is the fruit that we're talking about, right? Fruits that glorify the kingdom of heaven, fruits that glorify the Father, fruits that align with the will of the Father, of the Creator. That's the fruits we're talking about. We're not talking about any other fruit. We're talking about good fruit. There's many fruits. Just because it's a fruit doesn't mean that it glorifies the Father. Okay. Hmm. So beware of the false prophets. So in my many years, in my good amount of years, I should say, I don't want to sound like I'm, 80 years old. But in the several years that I've spent, just a little over 2 decades of going back and forth, experiencing uh, in my walk with the Father, since I accepted the Father, I accepted Yeshua, Jesus, Yahuwah, however you want to call him. I've always called him Jesus Christ, because and you know what? He answered me, so I can call him Jesus, and I know that he will make those demons flee, because he's done it before. So when I accepted Jesus over 2 decades ago, in my walk, in my experience, the Spirit of the Father led me to learn uh, the ways of man, all types of man. I've been studying mankind. I'm exhausted of doing so, but that's been something that the Father has continually showed me that he wants me to do. He wants me to continue to learn the behaviors and mannerisms, the fruits of men, of all types of men that walk in different ways, uh, that utilize his words, the Father's words, for their own ill-gotten gains. Okay, I'm chopping it up. The word is sharp, man. It cuts. I'm sorry. I really hope that it's the Father's words, right? So I've been led by the Spirit of the Father since earlier on to study said men and set scenarios and set churches, and I learned a lot, and I know it was the Father because He would lead me to these places, and I would reside there for a while, and He would teach me. He would teach me the way that men, greedy men, manipulate for the sake of building kingdoms of men, manipulate the word. And when I see what it says here, beware of false prophets, that's immediately where my head goes, who come to you in sheep's clothing, but inwardly are ravenous wolves. Why are they ravenous wolves? Well, because since they really, truly, in spirit and truth, don't really serve the Father and for the Father's will, they truly are serving themselves. They are willing to devour anything that comes in between their goals, their agendas. They pretend to be sheep because they know that if they present themselves as wolves, they wouldn't be received and they wouldn't have any control over the actual sheep. So they have to disguise themselves as sheep. They have to show you a side that is in appearance kind and receiving and righteous, you know. But that's not the case here with what Jesus is talking about. And now you will know them by their fruits. And now we go back to the fruits, right? Right? We're talking about their fruits. What are the fruits we care about? The fruits that we should be yielding. There's none of us is greater than anyone else, right? The only greater one is Yeshua, the Messiah, Jesus the Christ. So what are the fruits that we should be looking for? We should be looking for humility, humble heart. Should be looking for the fruits. I don't care about the outward fruits, the great deeds. No, it's the inward relationship that you establish. Is when the heart of man are revealed to you in their true condition, and we're all, something I have learned is that we're all faulty, all of us, without a shadow of a doubt. We're all faulty, but it's the attitude towards our that faultiness that matters, because again, the Father judges your heart. So if our condition is, if our heart condition is faulty, and we don't care to correct towards righteousness, when the Spirit shows the things that we need to correct, then that's a bad fruit. That's a bad fruit. When we choose to when we choose anything over doing the correct thing in spirit and truth, because you know that it's the Father's will, because it's just too compromising. When you compromise with the with the word of the Father, when you compromise, and I say this word, when I say word of the Father, I mean in revelation, in true revelation from the Spirit. When the Spirit comes to you and starts to convict you of things that you may do, that you are doing wrong, and because you have too much going on and too much invested in your own way of thought, you decide to do it your way anyways and ignore the Spirit. You're no longer doing the will of the Father. So those are the bad fruits, and we see what happens to those bad fruits. Right, the tree is cut down at its root. Right. I mean, it's it's very self-explanatory. Do men gather grapes from thorn bushes? No, every tree bears good fruit. So that's something we got when we talk about fruits. That's something we got to see. We got to see, are we ourselves? And I'm not even talking about judging others. I'm talking about ourselves. You should watch your heart, protect your heart from those that come to you in sheep's clothing. Absolutely, 100%. That's on you. Once you receive this word, because remember, the Father's people perish for lack of knowledge of His word, of His truth, revelation from the Spirit. They they perish because of that. But and why do they perish because of that? I gotta go down these. Because when you're not practicing righteousness, even in ignorance, you're opening doors for the enemy to come and have his way with you. Because in the spiritual realms, there are laws, just like there's laws here in this physical realm. The enemy cannot come and mess with you unless you open a door and give them legal entry to come and do so. So by you having no knowledge of what you're doing, you open doors that you shouldn't be opening, and you allowing the enemy in. So, drinking that beer. Sorry, there's some really pretty horses behind me, and My ADD brain completely just like checked out for a second. Really pretty horses. They were doing horsey things. And so that's the thing. We gotta scrutinize our hearts. If we're truly saying that we are the people of the Messiah, that we are the Father's people, that we're Jesus' people in spirit and truth, that's really the core foundation that we base our life upon. If that is true, then we know by the word, revelation from the Spirit, and by the word, we know that nothing comes before that. Nothing. Nothing comes before the truth of the Father, the only truth. Nothing comes before the Father. You cannot love. He tells you, you're not allowed to even love your children more than you love Him. That's in the book. And then you go and get revelation from His Spirit and realize why that is. It's not that He's a dictator. He is in a way, but it's not that He's a dictator, that He's a communist. It's that everything He does, remember, He created us. He didn't have to create us. He didn't have to share His greatness with us. We didn't appear out here by chance, contrary belief of folks. We were created, if this word is true. We were created in His likeness. He shared a piece of His DNA to create us. Okay? And that means that we are in His likeness in spirit and truth. And not God is not a flesh and bone. These are vehicles that we utilize to navigate in this realm. But we are created in the spirit. We're created in His likeness. So the reason why we can't love our kids or our family or our wives selfishly more than we love the Father is because we don't truly know. We don't truly know. Our flesh does not comprehend what true love is. We don't. We don't know what the Father's love is. We don't know what love is. We barely know how to love ourselves. This is evident in the way we treat ourselves. We don't even know how to love ourselves correctly. So that's why we need to rely upon the Spirit of the Father to show us what His love truly is. And He does that through revelation in spirit and truth on what you read in this book. He comes and shows you, and then He gives you convictions. And we all have plans. It's like it says it around here somewhere. It says that we make our plans. We're funny. We're cute little, you know, little creatures thinking that we can make our plans, and then the Father comes and throws a monkey wrench in the whole operation and says, "Okay, remember how you say you love me? All right, flip that car around. That's not the direction you're going. Let me show you where you're going." Oh, but I already told everybody. I don't care. Doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Oh, but I already told everybody, and but I already had Timmy take all the chairs, or we were gonna be. Doesn't matter. Turn that car around, because I said so. And you see, here's the experience through fire, and I have experienced. I have told the Father. Can you imagine? Can you believe it? I have told the Father, no. I already told everybody we were gonna be there, and we have all this plan, and everybody did everything that they're supposed to be doing, and blah 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 blah. And that's the way we're going to do it because that's how it works. And that's the best possible way of doing it because logic and blah, 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 and good mathematics and all of this and that and the other. And I've told the Father, no. Okay, cool. Because the Father loves us so much. He knows. The Father loves us so much. Something will happen where you will not meet that other destination. He will stop that ride on its tracks. And sometimes, depending on how stubborn your heart is, it's how hard that crash will be. And I know this from experience. I know this from experience. I don't say anything to anybody that I don't believe wholeheartedly in my heart because I've lived it. I live the words that I say. And I know what it's like to bump heads with the creator of the universe. And in all of his mercy and grace, it's still hard lessons. And you realize that maybe you shouldn't do that. And you come to a point of maturity, spiritual maturity, where you realize I need to say yes to the Father all the time. I need to stop making my plans that I think are holy and stop thinking that because you create yourself, you make yourself into a Godhead, what I like to call Godhead. You make yourself into a self-righteous, like that's it. You don't need the Messiah anymore. You're the Savior. You make yourself into your own answer while manipulating the word to excuse your heart condition and the actions you take moving forward past that point. Here's a funny thing about that. Sometimes the Father will let you ride. If you are truly the Son of the Most High, and He knows your heart, and He really truly knows that you don't know what the hell you're doing, and that you really would rather do it right in His way, He will make sure to stop that bus and redirect you and give you a chance for you to reflect and realize why you should go where He told you to go. If you don't have if you don't have those deep convictions, or it may be that you are just not His son or His daughter, you don't have it in your heart to follow the Messiah because it's not the Messiah that you're following and listening to. It's something else. Then the Father will let you ride. Father will let you ride until the point where the time is up, and then He pulls the rug from underneath you. And you see, I'm Cuban, right? I've heard all the stories of Fidel Castro overtaking the island. A lot of the stories were gruesome. I experienced some of that tyranny, but as a child, I was only allowed so much information, but I remember the stories, the gruesome stories of the gruesome acts, the acts of unrighteousness that were done to the Cuban people upon the overtaking of that island from Fidel Castro and his dictating homies, Camilo, Che Guevara, murderers, which he painted as martyrs down the line. And a lot of people are fooled and thought that they were great folks. They weren't great folks. They were killers. They were contract killers. They were hired muscle. And once the Godhead, Fidel Castro, realized that he had no more use for them, he found a way to eliminate them in a happy accident and made them martyrs so that people would still look up on the great things that they did, because evil paints good deeds as bad and bad as good. We also see this in this great book. The evil ones, that's what they do. They declare those things that are bad as good and those things that are good as bad. So I remember as a child in Cuba, I saw it on TV. Even though the whole island doesn't agree, there's very few families that would take the bait. There were a lot, it was like divided 50-50, kind of like here in the United States, but on a higher degree, where you have those that are giving the handouts, and they're happy with it. They're satisfied with the handouts because they have became complacent in their slavery. And then you have the rebels. My dad was a rebel in the sense that, that's the only translation I can think of for the actual Spanish word in Cuba. Un gusano. My dad was a rebel. He was against all things revolucion. Revolucion means revolution. That's what Fidel used to call. Like if it was a good thing that he overtook the island and murdered everybody that opposed him, This was a good thing. The insidious, narcissistic hmm. So he would call those things that were clearly terrible. And because he would put it in plain sight, and folks would have no other choice but to accept it because they were outgunned. That's one of the first things that all dictators do is take your means of self-protection. Because yeah, sure, they can drop nukes all over the place and clean house. But then who the devil wants to manipulate the masses. He doesn't want to obliterate everybody. He wants people to work for him. He wants people to do his bidding. Remember, the devil's deal is that he wanted to be God. He's a jealous MFer that wanted to share the glory of God. Now, we all know that's not possible. There's no way Father was going to allow that. There's no way. So he wants to be worshipped. What did he tell Yeshua? What did he tell Jesus up on that hill when the Spirit of the Father took him before he started his ministry, before he started his walk? He told him, "You see all this? All this I will give you if you just bow down and worship me." He wants, that's all he cares about. That's all the devil cares about. The devil is the prime example of narcissism. All he cares about is being worshipped. That's all he cares about, power. And he wants you to like it. He wants you to believe the lie so much that you will gladly lay down your servitude at his feet and thank him for the crumbs and be grateful for the crumbs he lays down at your feet, because he wants to be God. He wants to be the ultimate creator, right? That's a Godhead. So we already know that we're not saved by works, but our hearts will be judged at the end of an age based upon the things that the Spirit of the Father reveals to you and your obedience towards it. See, the Father's not going to judge you. The Father will not judge you based upon the things you don't know. We'll suffer in this world, in this physical playing field. We will suffer from the things we don't know in spirit and truth, but we won't be judged for them. We will only be judged from the things that the Spirit reveals to us and we don't comply with. That's when the judgment, that's the judgment. Okay. I know better now. I know better, and I try, and I'm not, and it doesn't mean because, oh, 2 decades. No, I'm not trying to toot my own horn. I'm just painting you a picture. Just because it doesn't mean it doesn't matter how long you've been in your walk with the Father. Upon the knowledge and realization that God is everything, that should be everything in your life, the first and foremost and primary of everything. Upon that knowledge, the Spirit starts to convict you, and it could be a year, it could be 20, it could be 100 years. Doesn't matter. What matters is how you respond to those convictions. That's what matters. Uh, I'm not. I'm not better than anybody. I'm not better than anybody. The only thing that I try to do is I try to submit. I try to submit the best of my ability to the instructions of the Spirit when I get those gut checks. I'm like, okay, yeah, can't do that. Oh, but and then in the beginning, the enemy messes with you because the enemy doesn't want you to obey, obviously. Because if you obey, you start to grow. When you start to grow, you start to see things for what they truly are, and you start to uncover his lies, and he can no longer manipulate you. So the enemy in the beginning, is gonna catch you with oh, but that's gonna be embarrassing. You can't say that, or you can't tell them that. They're gonna think different of you. Who do you love? You love the Father, or do you love the world? Who do you love most? Because remember, the only truth is in the Father. If you can't say no to a friend because you don't want to let him down, and the Spirit of the Father already convicted you, if you can't say no, if you can't say no to a family member, if you're a man, you can't say no to your children, if you can't say no to your wife because you fear, there's another spirit right there that we shouldn't be playing with. Spirit of fear. You fear that your wife may not understand your standing and the convictions that the Spirit has been giving you. You fear that you will lose her if you stand your ground in the truth that the Father is showing you. You're not worthy of Him. That's what the Word says. You put anyone before Him, you're not worthy of Him. Even your own children. And I say children because I have children. I have children. So it's a funny thing, fruits. Those are the fruits I look at. Those are the fruits the Father has taught me to look at. Because anyone can paint with a broad brush. Anybody can spread seeds around, especially nowadays where there's cameras everywhere, and and YouTube channels, and you know, it's easy to hide behind certain deeds that all of that are in essence good because they bless people, but inwardly, what is the root of those deeds? Is it that you truly care? Is it that you truly, truly care about the well-being of mankind, about the kingdom of the Father, and waking up and opening the eyes of human beings, of the Father's creation, to steer them to our salvation? Is that truly, or is it something else? Or are you hiding behind a good deed in order for you to look and appear that you're good? but you have greedy, selfish intent behind the curtains. And like I've said before, when you fall into that, you're only fooling yourself, and the Father will let you do it. At some point, you tell the same lie to yourself so many times that you start to believe it yourself, and it becomes truth to you and whoever else believes it. The fruits that I have learned to look at are the ones inside the heart intent. Remember that same analogy. What are the differences? What's the difference between killing and murder? They're both an act of the heart, but what is the difference? In essence, on paper, the outcome is the same. A life is erased from this terrestrial plane. In essence, the outcome is the same. But what is the heart condition? What is the motive? That's the perspective. That's what the Father judges. If you kill an animal to survive and you're still like, that's something I like about some indigenous some stuff that I have studied or looked into in indigenous tribes and things like that. Like they're really grateful for the animals, for nature. I couldn't tell you on the top of my head names of these indigenous tribes or anything like that, but and here in the United States, they would be very grateful. They wouldn't kill more than that they needed to eat and feed their families, and they would be grateful for the animals, and they would steward the animals. You know, they would only kill to sustain themselves, as it is righteous to do so. But they weren't killing just to kill. There's some little kids, the enemy grabs them early on, and these are few, but there have been studies on this. When you see little kids that are maliciously killing certain animals, just to kill, it's the intent of the heart. Either the raccoon is eating your tomatoes, or you don't even grow tomatoes, and you're looking for these raccoons so you can tear them apart and just watch them bleed, and you like to hear them squeal. That's a fucked up heart condition. That's all the way a demon getting a grasp of that young soul. I don't know how I got this far in, but yeah, fruits. I think that's where I'm keeping it. Fruits. I could keep going. I mean, this whole book is fire. I don't know if you read it, but the whole book is fire. Um, yeah, man. Define fruit. Learn what true good fruits that glorify the Father truly are. Make sure that your fruit is solely glorifying the Father, and that you're not producing that fruit with the intent of a selfish act. Make sure that you're not trying to create your own salvation, and that you believe in your heart that you're saved already by the only one Savior. Make sure you understand that if you're walking in this walk with the only one true Messiah. Make sure you understand who your God is. Because if you don't know who you are with your Creator, you just might be serving somebody else. So I think I'm going to leave it there. A little tired today, no coffee yet. Bless you guys. And the truth will set us free. And By their fruits you will know them. So, shalom.